Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beats Audio Installation, and today we're doing a video on how to install an amplifier and subwoofer in a Pontiac Firebird. We're going to show you here on this model specifically. It happens to be the convertible. Provo Beats Audio Installation channel is sponsored by NVX and Sonic Electronics. Get 10% off all speakers, amplifiers, wiring kits, and more with coupon code PBAI at NVX. Also get 5% off all car audio components at Sonic Electronics with coupon code ProvoBeast. At this point of the install, we're going to go ahead and start running our power cable from the battery of the engine bay along a factory grommet along the side of the car into the trunk area. Now, with these GM vehicles, you may have to pick up a side post adapter. Essentially, this will allow you to actually hook on accessories to the post, because the factory post is too short and ultimately doesn't give you any place to hook anything up to the positive side. We picked this up from an auto parts store just for a few dollars. They make all the difference. You don't have to actually hack up this rubber boot. So back behind the computer here, there's actually a rubber grommet. So what we're going to do is access that from the inside of the car. Generally, we'll push wire through it and make sure there's a seal around it. We'll run along, put a fuse here, and get everything hooked up. Now, up underneath the passenger side of the dash, we just popped down a little cover. It just held on with a couple clips, giving us access. And you're going to see right there, there's a grommet with a small wire going through it. There's plenty of space in the surrounding grommet that we can actually just poke a little hole. We're not going to drill by any means or affect the factory wiring, but that's going to give us the access we need to run the power wire from inside the engine compartment into the cabin of the Trans Am. So we're going to poke a wire through it so we can start fishing wire. Okay, there's a little wire. Push that just right on through that grommet. And on the other side, it just came right out there. If you look hard enough, you can actually see it here. What we're going to do is hook our wire to this. We can use a little bit of soap and water to make it slippery, and then from the inside of the car, we're going to pull the wire back through that grommet into the cabin. Now, the wiring kit we chose to go with is this NVX wiring kit. This is a 100% copper 4-gauge amplifier wiring kit for 2 channels. Of course, you can get bigger RCA kits to allow for more channels, but essentially within this kit, you're going to have everything that you need for your install. Your power wire, which also has a braided loom, which is nice for the engine bay. You have RCAs, or remote turn-on wire, speaker wire, your ground, odds and ends with fuses, and your fuse holder. Now, this accepts large and small A&L fuses, but they supply plenty of large ones depending on the amperage you're pulling. Great kit. Like I said, this is 100% copper, and I strongly suggest you pick one of these up. These are great. We picked this up off of NVX's website. Go ahead and check them out. Pick up this kit. I'll throw a link in the description for you, and use our coupon code to save a couple bucks. Okay, so we got that wrapped up. We're going to go from the inside and start pulling it through. And with a little soap and water, that actually slipped right on through really easily. At this point, we're going to pull through into the cabin all the wire that we need, leaving just enough for the fuse and the rest of the run to go right to the battery. Okay, so we pulled our wire through. We'll go right along here. We'll zip tie along the factory wiring. Put our fuse kind of in this area between these two heat shrink. We'll just cut that, wire that in, and then the positive will go onto the positive post when we're ready. Now, the next thing here, we need to run this up underneath the carpet because there's not a lot of space underneath this kick panel here. So there's going to be a few screws, Phillips screws, along this, which will actually release this panel, and then pull the carpet back and run that wire just underneath the carpet, working your way back. Now, we've already removed these back panels, which are actually super simple to do so. Generally, on these convertibles, you'll have a cover plate with one screw that goes through the top. When you remove that, actually the cover comes off. And the only other thing holding it on is your main pin that actually holds the back seat in. So when you put the back seat down, you'll be able to actually pull it out. It's a T50 Torx bit, and then that whole panel just lifts on out, disconnecting. There's a little light there as well. That'll give you the access you need to get into the trunk. Okay, after removing all 4 screws, it actually should just slide on out here. just like that. Now at this point, if you really wanted to, you can actually just go ahead and put this panel back on. Okay, so I zip tied our power wire here. This is a nice flat spot for a fuse, so we mounted that fuse there. We don't have our fuse in yet, but it's ready to go. It's easily accessible. Run it down to our side post adapter and got that all bolted down. Everything's zip tied and cleaned up underneath the hood. At this point, let's finish running the power wire to the trunk. Now here in the trunk of the convertible Trans Am, we planning on putting our amplifier just up on this shelf. It's a NVX 5-channel amp. What we're going to do to mount this down is actually we've cut a piece of plywood there. It's MDF, and what we're going to do with that is attach the board to the body, and then we're going to mount our amplifier through the carpet into that board. So it'll look nice and clean, and then we're going to just cut little slits in the carpet so we can run wire up there to keep it looking decent. Now, regardless of your convertible or hardtop model, you will most likely have the Monsoon system. Monsoon factory amp is actually back behind this little plate here, but if you unplug this wire harness, this is what we're going to do to bypass our Monsoon setup. Now, this plug will have the inputs and the outputs. We're not going to use the inputs from the factory radio because we've replaced it, and we're going to run RCAs instead, but we are going to use the outputs, which will go to all our speakers. What I'm going to do in the description here is post the output wiring to each of the 4 corner locations, the front 2 doors and the rear 2 quarter panels, what the output colors are for your assistance. Alright, so we ran our ground. We use this bolt here, strip the paint back using a wire brush on a drill, and then we ran our wire here along with our power wire that we fished through just up underneath the carpet from that backside. And at this point, we're ready to get that hooked up. Alright, so for the RCAs, the remote turner wire and our bass knob wire, we ran from back behind the radio because those will plug into the subwoofer and other pre-outs. We're actually running up underneath here. This just pops down with 2 clips on each side. Once you do so, it's a great little spot to run wiring. We'll clean that on all up. Now we're gonna have to actually run it up underneath the kick panel here, and it's held on with 4 screws. Okay, so we popped the panel back up, and we ran our cables up underneath the carpet there. And then I have the top somewhat up here, and that allows me access so I can run cables just up through underneath the carpet, through this back side here, and here we go. Now in the previous segment, you watched us run our RCA cables, our remote turner wire from the radio, and our bass knob wire, and that'll go on this side of the amp as well. We ran our power wire. What we did is actually cut a piece of MDF here all the way across so we can mount our amplifier to it. We're going to connect that MDF to the body. Now you can drill, but be careful, your gas tank is underneath this hump. So instead, we're using Velcro strips, because even without it, it is solid because this carpet runs through the cabin as well. So it's nice and secure, but we're going to secure it even more just so we have no movement with this amplifier. So we got our power and ground done. We showed you where we grounded it. Remember, our remote turn on wire ran with our RCAs and all the other cables up to the front to the radio. On this end, we went ahead and plugged in those RCAs that we ran from our radio, along with our bass knob wire. We threw that in there as well. Then our speaker wire output on this side of the amp, again, cut a little slit in that carpet there and ran them out, up underneath, down along here, and we tapped into the factory wiring. Now, it's too hard at this point with this space to actually show you what wire goes to where, so I'm going to post in the description the connections, the outputs to your speakers. So I'll throw that down there for you. That's it here in the trunk for the amplifier install. Down below we have our 5th channel or sub output. We have plenty of length here, and we have a down firing sub that'll actually just fit down in that cavity there. Okay, we've got everything connected on the back of the radio. Our 3 sets of channels, front, rear, sub. A lot of good connections there. Let's get the radio in the dash. Essentially, all this will just tuck back behind the dash. What this will do is go right there, and then our dash bezel, once we put in the screws, will actually fit right around. Put a bass knob here inside the little box. All right. Amplifier is all done. We used the DD1 distortion detector to get our gain set perfectly. Everything's set up nicely. It's actually sitting on a downfire 10-inch Audiobahn subwoofer. It actually fits in there nice. Just because this is the only storage in the car, so we don't want to fill that up with the sub. Everything looks super clean. Got our panels all back together. If you guys like this amplifier, you can go ahead and pick it up at nvx.com. But that's about it, guys. Thanks again for watching the channel. Hopefully this install was super helpful for you. Appreciate the support that you guys provide, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.